Hi everyone, my name is Harri Mardlin, and I'm talking today with Ali Mylon, who is an actor and writer, about a brand new theatre project that Sputnik is helping to fund. So I've got a couple of questions for Ali, starting with, please Ali, would you introduce yourself and your background as a performer?
Sure, yeah. So I'm Ali Mylon, and I'm primarily an actor musician, although I work in voiceover as well. I've worked in TV and film and theatre and commercials. Um, so I originally got into drama school at 18, but didn't feel it was the right course of action for me at the time. So did a music degree, and then actually in my late 20s, late 30s, contacted the late 30s, early 30s, contacted the drama school that I got into at 18 and then retrained at that stage. So I've been working in the industry for nearly 15 years now.
Okay, fantastic, thank you. Please tell us about your project.
Yeah, so several years ago, I started writing I call it a musical, but it isn't really. It's a theatre piece with music called Dance With Me. It's set around the time of the Brexit vote, although it's not a political drama at all. But it's a story about two people, Annette, who's a Polish migrant, and Tony, who's a taxi driver from Sheffield in Killamarsh. And it's really a story about their meeting, their friendship, and actually how their friendship draws out of them their needs and wants, their perception of home, their perception of what it is to create a safe environment for themselves and their families, and also just really about how their understanding of home affects them and drives them.
Okay, great, thank you. I'm really interested to know how you feel connected to the material and why you think it's important to make this work.
Yeah, sure. So the reason this project was birthed was at the time of the Brexit vote, I was teaching English as a foreign language. I've done that alongside working as a performer for several years, and I was teaching a class primarily of Polish students. Um, and during the time of the Brexit vote, obviously everything was so heightened. And I saw the impact that it had on individuals and on their community. Around the same time as well, I was working in London and was came back to Sheffield and got a taxi home and had this really interesting conversation with the taxi driver. And it just really struck me that even though on paper the leave and remain vote kind of seemed to be poles apart, actually the two characters and their needs and their wants and their desires for their family and their understanding of what it is to feel safe was very, very similar. And so I kind of started imagining, well, what if these two characters were to meet? How would their prejudices or their understandings kind of impact each other, and also perhaps draw out within themselves, what is it to feel at home? Is it about being in a specific country? Is it about feeling safe, or is it actually much more of an inward struggle of feeling like you've arrived within yourself to a place where you feel at peace? So yeah, that's how it all began, and it's also a bit of a personal testimony as well of how I kind of grew as a performer, grew as an individual, how I sort of came to a place where I felt much more comfortable in my own skin, much more sort of like, not that I'd arrived because we were all work in progress, but much more sort of in a place where I feel like I'm actually Ali Mylon and content and happy to be who I am.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. It's a good place to reach, isn't it?
It
And it
is
can,
a good place to, I mean, it's obviously a
uh,
work in progress. I mean,
yeah,
none of us got
absolutely.
there, but
Yeah.
yeah, sort of that inward battle of
Mm,
just yeah, just knowing what it is to feel comfortable and content.
Yeah. And as performers, that can be a real challenge, I think, as well. We're putting ourselves out there.
Because everything out there is so uncontrollable and
Yeah.
constantly shifts. And I mean, as a performer, 95% of life is about rejection and about not getting the jobs, or about, working out whether something is a good thing for you to pursue or not. But actually, if you're coming from a place where you feel contentment, then that sort of changes everything, really. So
that's great. Yeah, that's great. Who's your target audience and why is that?
So I'm working with a fantastic director called Sally Proctor, who's agreed to take on the project. She's assistant director for the National Theatre. I've worked with her before, and she's really passionate about community work and telling stories that are authentic, that are truthful. I worked with her on a project telling stories verbatim about people from the Hillsborough area. She really wants us to work closely with the Polish community in Sheffield. I've got in touch with a Polish musician who I would like to work with, but also to work closely with the working men's community as well. So I suppose in terms of target audience, we want to work within these communities and tell these people's stories. So that's a target audience within itself. But also I think it's the people of Sheffield, or anyone that wants to hear this story and actually recognise that the time of Brexit was significant, that it heightened things, and actually maybe those questions that it raised within us are still as relevant today as they were at that time. It's just maybe they've been dampened down a bit. So target audience, whoever wants to listen to it and watch it. But primarily, we want to tell the story of the working men in Sheffield and the Polish community in Sheffield.
Yeah, fabulous. Thank you. Just one last question. If you know the answer to this yet, where do you see this going? What would you like for the future of the piece?
Well, after we've done this workshop, which Sputnik will be funding, we're then going to apply for further funding. And Arts Council funding, hopefully. I'd love it to be told in Sheffield theatres. I'd love it to become a production. Obviously, I'm aiming high. I'm aiming for it to be taken on by the larger theatres, but I'm equally happy if it just got showed in community centres or smaller venues around. Who knows? I just think it's a story that is valuable and important to tell.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. It's been very, very good to hear about it. Thank you so much for your time, Ali.
Pleasure.
And really just remains for me to say to those listening, if you'd like to consider supporting the arts and help more Christian practitioners like Ali, then you might want to consider becoming a Sputnik patron. All the details are on the Sputnik website, or you can access via the link below. And just one final thank you so much, Ali. It's been really good to spend some time with you.
Thank you. You too.